And we are live, I think. I hope. Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas for those of you who celebrate Christmas, and happy holidays for everybody else. Sorry I wasn't here last week. I had a bit of a throat infection that caused my voice to be a bit painful when I talked. So talking for 3 hours long during a stream did not seem to be a very good idea. So apologies for that, but we're back tonight. We're back at our racing game for now. Hi SLX, boo to you too. And hi Master Ox. The spaceship game is still around. I am spending some time on my vehicle demo game because I want to do a couple of tutorials around this. I'm working on a tutorial covering all the gear change stuff that we did a couple of weeks ago. So I just wanted to do a little bit more with this and sort of return to this and get a bit of revisit on it. And once we're a little further along with that, I'm going to be back on my space game. So so that's just temporarily on hold, but not gone. Far from. I actually am eager to return to it. But for now, I am working on the racing game for a little bit. There's just a few things I've left. So why is my thing saying that it's having problems? Have a look. I don't know if you guys are having any buffering issues on your end. But I'm having some suspicions that OBS is giving me a bit of a hard time at the moment. I'm not quite sure why. Seems to be okay now. Hopefully it'll be good. One of the suspicions that I'm having is that ever since the pandemic is somewhat under control here in Australia, the government has turned down the bandwidth that they've reserved. Yeah, I seem to be skipping a bit. I'm supposed to have a pretty big pipe going up. Yeah, I'm on the latest version as far as I'm aware. So let's just see how it goes and hope that it keeps working properly now. We shall keep an eye on it. All right. So, trusty drink. So on tonight's stream, I want to spend a little bit more time on our little racing game. One of the things that I've quickly whipped together is actually this little oval track that I built for the next part of the tutorial series. I just needed to have a simpler track to drive on so that we could test out the gear changes. On stream we did on this big flat plane, and I just wanted to dress it up a little bit. So so that's something that I think we will spend some time on tonight. I also jerry rigged a steering curve into my car model just as a temporary measure. That's just to make sure, because I'm using my trusty controller again, this guy, and it's really hard to control the steering on the car if your input works directly, because you oversteer very, very quickly. So that is something that I want to have a bit of a more of a look at tonight, and slowly working to improving this whole project and kind of seeing where we can end up with it. So the other things, well, let's just see how we're into with this into the stream. About an hour into the stream, see where we are there. See if we have a couple of more people joining in, and then we'll have a bit of a talk also about the future and where we're going, because there was a little bit of news about 2 weeks ago around me joining the core group of paid Godot developers. So we'll have a bit of a chat about what's happened there and how that came to be as well. But I think we'll do that a bit later in the stream, because there's only a couple of people on right now, and they'll just miss out when they join later. So okay, let's just have a quick look at how far we are with this. You turn this thing on. What is that complaining about? That's Disney. So one thing that I'm not happy about yet around the gear change is that the taking off, the speed at which we, drive off is, we've got pretty bad acceleration. Now here you can see that the steering is overreacting very quickly if you put too much input in, even. Okay, I need to fix that. I just added that just before the stream started. So I got one of the settings wrong on the on how that is generated. But yeah, so I'm still not quite happy about the steering. It's very easy to overcorrect the steering. As you can see that I need to do very small steering inputs for the car to go around the bends. Now the other thing is, I can go pretty fast and still kind of stick onto the road. So obviously, that's pretty unrealistic. That's something that we need to address at some point. But I first want to dress up the whole environment a little bit, and we're just going to put a few things into this just to create a scene with just simple shapes to just create something that's a little bit more visually appealing, and kind of dresses it up so that we can see that we're driving through a whole area. Okay. So let's first quickly finish this, because the thing that I did wrong is I forgot to set, not that one, this one, path rotation to path follow. And that should mean if we go to the other side of the track, now our top of our rail is nicely on the top. So we have this whole fence going around our track to make sure that our car doesn't run off the track. And this is basically just a high-speed track to run around. All right. Now, one of the things that I'm not happy about, that I also am thinking about how we can change it, is that this track is not what you call it. There's no bend to it. There's no angle to it. Now we could do that with the what do you call it? I can't think of it now. We could do that with the fact that there is a up vector on the curve that you can tilt. There's no UI for that, which is really annoying. So when we look at a curve that we set out, that's actually controlling our track. Each one of these points has actually got a tilt, but you can't actually interact with that, which is a bit of a shame. So yeah, that's those are our control points with our. It's really simple, just control points at every start and end of the bend, and then creating these turns. So that's one thing, is playing around with that tilt. The other thing is we could probably just build it into the track base itself. The thing is that I would really like it to be horizontal for the what you call it? For the straights, so that the straights aren't at an angle and you would be constantly going into the inside when you're on the straights. You really want that banked turn, or the turn to be banked. So that is something that I want to have a look at, see what we can do with that. Hi Bailey, nice of you to join you again. Yeah, so that might be something that we can tackle. Now, one of the things that I've been thinking about is possibly creating some logic ourselves to further change that curve, that path. But I'm not sure if I want to recreate the whole interface around that. So I might put something into the road itself. I need to think about that. It's really a shame that there is no interface for that. It's not into the options. And that's just for changing the bends. Yeah, that's fine. What's that? Oh, are we still running? No, we're not running. Just go and close that off. Nah, I just want to close that. Goodbye. I'm gonna keep those open. We might find it useful. Don't know if anybody follows The Mandalorian. I kind of like it, so I was looking at some behind the scenes things. If I'm not mistaken, Bailey is working on a 4 times space strategy game. Seeing that he's probably off for a second before he can answer. All right. Where to next with this? Now, the other thing that I was thinking about to deal with the issues that I'm having with steering is to make the steering less sensitive the faster you're going. That'll probably not be such a bad idea to do either. Let's actually put that in real quick. So this code is a little bit cleaned up from last time that we worked on it. That actually goes all over here. So we got our max steering angle. All right, so we got our current speed in meters per second. So let's say we are going 60 kilometers an hour. That is 0.06 meters per hour, meters per minute. No, I'm doing something wrong there. Just a second. Am I? Actually, let's just... Let's say 60. Oh, the other way around. Times 1,000. That means 60,000 meters divided by 3,600. And I actually want to make sure that they are all floats. That should give us meters per second for that. Speed factor. So let's say that that's then max steer speed takeaway current speed. So if we're standing still, that's going to be max speed. If we're going max speed, that is going to be 0. If we're going faster, then this is going to be negative. So we're going to divide that, so that now becomes a value between 1 if we're standing still and 0 if we're going at max speed. Negative if we're going faster, which is why I want to clamp this. Okay. I don't really want to call it min angle. let's call that speed steer angle. Let's say that we're going to go for 10 degrees for that. It's going to be called speed steer angle. Actually, if that needs to be when it's 1, then I'm actually just going to say this is just going to be current speed divided by max speed. So now if we're standing still, it's going to be 0. If we're going at our max steer speed, it's going to be 1. If we're going faster, it's going to be bigger than 1. But we clamp it, so it becomes a value between 0 and 1, which now means we can simply lerp it. And we lerp it between our max speed and our steer speed by our steer speed factor. So now we get a maximum of 30 degrees steering if we're standing still, and 10 degrees when we're actually at our 60 kilometers an hour mark. Let's see if that makes our steering a little bit more comfortable. So we got our full steering at normal speed, and now we're at 10 degrees when we're, so that becomes a whole lot more controllable at speeds. But it means that if we're going very slow, I can still make a good turn. I think actually that at 60 kilometers an hour is probably a bit too underwhelming. So let's make that something that we can actually set. We're going to set that to 120. We want it to be float. We need to type some of these things. So instead of this being hard-coded, I'm going to go and say that. Luckily, it's case sensitive. Hey, you CEO of Swag. So yeah, now I can still pretty much steer that way. Once we're on to speed, we've got our more controllable speed input. Still stick to the road quite too well. It's a bit of a go-kart at the moment. Oh, still steer too much there. Yeah. But that is stuff that we really need to start working on more and more. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to create this test track, so we can start playing around with the setup of the car and make it actually handle a bit more realistically. The other thing, of course, is if you hit something, well, not a very convincing crash. Now, in that lies another problem, is we're using CSG polygon nodes here, where we can't really set up our collision information, or sorry, our collision type. So everything here is a plain static body without properties, and we really want to start using some of the physics settings on static bodies to control things. So I'll probably end up changing the way that we build this. So many things to choose from to work on. All right. I think the first thing that I want to do is I want to actually create a little pit area. And for that, we're going to need to add a second shape to our road and join that in. So what I actually want to start doing is I want to create a CSG, is that a combiner? I think so. So we're gonna actually put our road under this combiner. Why is that immediately making our road disappear? That's interesting. Oh, because that is like this. There we go. Road's back. Okay, so I'm gonna call this main road. Call that road, and then we can make a little pit lane road here. And for that, we need another path. Now this is where it gets interesting. I think that I'm going to want to put this all, organize it like this. I think I want to start putting this more like this. There we go. That means that all our paths are now broken. So I need to go and redo this path. It's also going to be broken for our wall path. Actually, I want to call that main path. That doesn't really rename very well, does it? There we go. This one also follow our main path. This one needs to follow our main path. Interesting enough, that one did remember the path. Not quite sure why that one did. And our barrier needs to have our main path as well. Alrighty. Hiya, Exorus MT. Hope you're having a good time. Okay, let's see if everything's back now. Yeah, we got our mesh on our fence here. These steel pipes might be a little bit bigger than I might want them to be, but it's what it is. Okay, so let's go and add another path. I just want to put that over here. I'm going to go and call that pit path. Okay. I want to go to top view because I want to change that in our top. Why is that not scrolling? There we go. Yeah, make sure that we're nice and straight. All right. Let's go and actually that's way too big. We're gonna go move this much more closer like that. All right. And I think that I'm also going to move that more down. I think that I'm going to want to have that. We'll see how that goes in a bit. Now, oops. We're going to want that to be a bit of a bend. Needs to be a bit of an S shape. There we go. And so the same over here. Oops. And then this one also like that. And it's going to go like that. Now it's going to be really interesting to see how well that is going to be merging together. I've got no idea how well that will work. Anyway, I'm just going to go and duplicate that and call that pit road. And instead of that following main path, that's going to follow our pit path. And that should be duplicating those. Now, That's horrible. Okay, so all right. So I want to go and create that as our collision. That needs to have tangents. That means that if we have, don't really need that anymore. Oh, that's already removed our create collision because it's now a combined one. I really wonder. Not so much for that union logic working. Oh, we don't want to do an intersection. That would be really crazy. Because the only other thing that I can think of is that we don't union them. Put that back on there. Put that back on there. Get rid of this guy. Obviously, that means that we need to fix that up again. No, we don't want a smooth facing on that. There we go. Okay. But now we have that they kind of hit each other. I really don't want that. Now, one easy way to deal with that, but it's a bit of an ugly way, is by lowering one of the road sections. The other thing that we could do might actually be a better idea. That's a bit dirty though, but we can try. Okay. Follow, sign, main path. There we go. Actually, no. Let's delete this guy first. Let's go and duplicate you. You over here. This one actually clear. And subtract. Definitely not working. This one actually I would want to have probably a lot more. Okay, the thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a second road section that we can then subtract from this. Now, one of the things that we can do here is actually keep this all on -7. That will be 7. But now I put that one on 1, put that one on 1, -2, and that one needs to be -2. So what I'm creating now is a version of our main road that is bigger. Let's go and hide our ground for a sec. That's a little bit too much. So I'm creating a bigger version of our road section. This should not be joined. End caps. Maybe that's why it couldn't do that. But now that we do have this, I'm trying to get that to subtract. So, does that need to be on the same level? That's maybe our problem. Let's get our combiner back. Put you there. Oh, there. There. Oh, that's because now our paths are screwed up again. There we go. So we have our pit road. That works strangely the wrong way around. I honestly don't get this. That is a collision. Tangents. I'm gonna cut this off. Is that because we've got inverted phases? That does need to. I don't care about you. No. Okay. No, well, the Z fighting is what we had when I overlaid it, and that's why I don't want to use it as an overlay. I actually am trying to I'm trying to subtract that from that one. So let's go and put the invert faces back on, because that's definitely how that's supposed to work. That is now just a big block. Now Y. Now that's just a subtraction of the total one. All right. I'm gonna move this outwards for a sec. And this one outwards, so they don't touch. So basically, when you have a union now, we should just get the two shapes as they are. So why is that not working? Oh, hang on. No, because that is... So in theory, that means that I don't actually need to do the combiner. Get rid of you. Oh, yeah, that now, of course, screws up our path again. Put that back to pit path. Nope, that needs to be main path. Yeah. All right. There we go. So we got our shape here. Now if we go and put that as a subtraction, still not subtracting. Because that would mean that this thing will be totally gone. Alright, top view. I'll move that guy back in here. Pretty much exactly how it should be. Changed the height now, didn't it? I got snap on. That's right. Alright, so that's that one. Gotta move this one in place. But now, why is this not subtracting? That's a weird thing. That one's joined, so that's good. Don't care about that. I don't care about that. Don't actually care about that. This one's the only one that should be doing that. Or is it that this one needs to be like this? That's it. Let's make sure that stays on there. Now, then it's again does that. But that was it. That's right. Now remember, that needs to be a child of the thing that it subtracts from. But it's still not a subtraction. Intersection seems to be doing exactly what I wanted to do. But that shouldn't be correct either. I want to see what happens if I change the so what if I do the same thing here? Do not invert, but make sure that the values are correct. So that becomes 10, that becomes 7, that becomes -7, and that becomes -10. Subtraction is what we're... I don't get this. This just seems too broken. Yeah, I do a lot more of static typing too. I do tend to forget from time to time, but I try to use it as much as I can. Now, that shouldn't matter for what we're doing here. So, even though we changed those around, which changes the face order. We still need to invert faces to get this to work right. Dude, that always stays the same. So only with invert faces, that's going to be the right way around. And the same thing applies for this guy. Because hard to see, but it is the wrong way around. So I need to invert that in order to see the outside. Actually, for this one, I want that to be -7, and I want that to be 7. So I want that one to be nice and straight. So I don't want it to fall out. Because that's the thing that I suspect, is that our subtraction logic just doesn't work when the faces are inverted. That's what I think is going on here. Which just really, really sucks. It's just so weird. Well, that kind of makes this much harder to do, doesn't it? This is back the way that it should be. Let's make our main road visible. So now we just have the problem that our pit road is overlapping. Now, again, like I said, what we could do, even though it's ugly, is we could move that slightly down. And that brings our pit lane nicely into our into that, but it gives us a little bump there. So you could try and derive on this. Oh, my controller's off again. Yeah, maybe wrap them on CSG shapes. That's possible too. That might be an idea to try. I can see that it's still flickering a bit, so while it helps some, we still have some Z distortion there. Let's try Berkster's idea. Oh yeah, Ninja. Merry Christmas to you as well. All right, so yeah, so we could just throw this into CFG's combiner. Which means that this guy is going to be the one that uses collisions. And we add another combiner here. We're going to fix this one again, which is really annoying. That's going to be a pit path. There we go. And duplicate that. Put that over here. This one we can clear. I think with again. Going to be our main path. So these are still unions and it's still screwing it up, and that's the thing that where I really wonder. So maybe this needs to be in its own combiner then. Gets pretty ugly really fast. But again, we can see that even though they're unions, this thing just completely screws up. Because it's an inverted thing. Because they're all set to union right now. Obviously, makes you want that to be subtraction. But again, we just get the intersection. And I think it is because our shape is inverted. Now, what we could do to fix this guy, up here, leave all our points. I'm going to add points. Start with one over here, one over there, one over there, one over there. I'm not going to worry too much about this. I'm actually going to move you in here again. I'm going to get rid of all these guys for now. Yep, a bit too much. Very good. That's still there. Pit path, okay. Not invert. That's because I need to get it around. So even though I've now turned that the other way around, I'm still getting... Let's do it the other way around. So no matter which way we do it, we end up with an inverted thing. Why? This does not make any sense. That just does not make any sense. No, I'm not using my custom terrain generator for anything here. This is just a flat plane at the moment. I might do something with that eventually, but for now, I just want to see if we can somehow get a racetrack working with more complex shapes than one continuous loop. And it would have been really nice if we could combine and make use of the CSG logic. But it doesn't seem to be possible. It's just absolutely crazy. Again, what I don't get is that we cannot get the inversion of this working properly. Let's actually first go and fix up our path again. So once we figure out how to do that properly, that would already solve a whole bunch of things. Nope. Okay. That one to be on there. Same thing with this guy. Yeah. I can sink it more down. It's too far down. Because I also have that grass bottom a little bit more. Let's actually see if we can first. What else could we try with this? That's just what I don't get. Even if we change the order of these points. Well, I think our stream got a hiccup again. I don't know what's going on with... what is going on with this thing? Let's see. Alright, sorry guys, I'm not quite sure what is going on with my internet connection at the moment and why it is having so much trouble keeping up. Very, very strange. Okay, let me catch up on chat for a second. Well, Bailey, we've got a small lockdown going on in Sydney right now, which hopefully will help out, and we'll be back to normal pretty quickly. But I can imagine that in America it is going a little bit crazy. But you know, what do you do? Just be safe, I guess. Hi, Gustav. Well, always good to meet a fan. Thank you. And I feel like throwing my laptop out of the window from time to time as well, especially with things like this where it really stumps me, and I'm sort of going like, why is this not working properly? And at some point, you know, you either need to accept that you're gonna have to work with the workaround, like right now, just figuring out what a good lowering of the road is so that it actually slips slightly underneath the main road. It creates a little bit of a bump going on and off the pit lane, but for now it'll do enough for what I want to do. Obviously, I need to start looking into the CSG code and figuring out why it doesn't work right with these extruded polygon nodes. The continuous would be a problem if I turn it on for this guy, and it should be off for that guy. Why is it not scrolling? No, it is on. That should not be on. Why it keeps turning that on? It does need to be on for the main road. But I already, when I was playing around with it before, I was already having problems with that. So still having Z problems even though I moved it down. Problem is if I move it down more, at some point we'll hit the ground because the ground. How far down did I place the ground? Ground set at 0. Did I give height to the road? I probably did not. Yeah, so that's 0.5. Did I change that for this guy? Maybe that's right. No, 0.05. So I've actually moved that now down, which would make it flush with the ground. So I don't know why I'm not having a Z buffer error with this guy. So how come we're still somewhat above that? That's at 0. That's at 0. Did I move this one accidentally? No, 0. Oops. This guy's at 0. That guy's at 0. Not sure why this is actually offset. That's weird. So obviously I need to fix the placement of our points now. It also means that I want this one back like this. Let's make sure that we therefore move this back where it belongs. This one back where it belongs. Good enough. Oh. Uh-huh. Okay, that makes sense. Ah, of course. Always modify in top mode. The problem that I'm having, and I think why things are misbehaving, is if you move the the location of your CSG node and then recalculates the path, it's going to put it back on where that path is, and it's going to double adjust. So we need to make sure that we move this guy down by whatever amount. So now if I move this guy down, we'll see that it goes exactly on the grass. It's the guy that we need to now put slightly below, so that it's now underneath our road, but it's still above the grass. And let's see if we now have any problems here. Hopefully those are gone, because again, the way that I did it before, it was actually double correcting it. Nope, my controller's off again. Yeah, this is a whole tutorial series that that I was working on about a year ago. Yeah, we can see now that if we drive down this, we have a bit of a bump. But I think we can now move it a bit higher, because our Z will be good enough to allow us to do that. But we do have our pit lane right now, which is really good. So yeah, I'm going to actually move this slightly higher. I might try that much higher. I can already kind of see that this is still not giving us any problems, so maybe even go to this, because I want that bump to be as small as possible. So yeah, so as I was saying, so this was actually a tutorial series that I started about a year or two ago, where I've got I think it's 5 parts already, where I set everything up. I'm working on part 6 right now, which covers what we discussed 2 weeks ago around the changing of gears. Oh, 3 weeks already ago. Time flies. So yeah, everything that I'm doing on stream right now, although fiddling around with this, what I'm doing, that probably won't be a new tutorial, because I've already covered creating a track in a tutorial series. I also believe that, you know, prototyping like this inside of Godot allows you to quickly put a track together, but a tool like, say, Blender is actually far more suitable for the sort of work that we're doing here. And I might dedicate some time to that at some point in time, but I need to brush up on my Blender skills, because the last time I seriously used Blender was still in 7.2. All right, now that it's a little bit less off, I just want to see how well that works. Let's see if we have a pitch lane. Because one of the downsides that we now have is we can't really create any barriers here, because they will interfere with the rest of our track. But we have a pit lane. All right, cool. Well, again, I'm not completely happy and satisfied with this solution. I much rather would have it work with that CSG subtraction, or what's it called? Yeah, subtraction node, because then we could really fit it together properly, and we wouldn't have any weird overlap and any bump in the road and things like that. But for now, just having that small, oops, that small difference there, I guess I could try and see what happens if I make it 0.05. or even 0.01. That's where we're already going to see some overlap there. And that's really what it is just finding the minimum that we can get away with, where our Z buffer still works to our advantage, but we don't have a really serious bump. So yeah, now it's become small enough that we don't really notice anything. We have to keep in mind that we're always going to be pretty close to the track. So that'll do. Alrighty. Where do the VR games sell? Yeah, no. Basically between Oculus's Quest store, that's probably a good place to be, but you have to then patience for Oculus. Don't think it costs you money to place a game in there, but they do take a cut, and I think that's the same thing with Steam as well. So, but you can publish on SideQuest, itch.io. First, have to have a game. That's your start, and once you have a game that you want to sell, that's really the question is, do you want to target Quest, where probably you've got the biggest market share at the moment, or do you want to target PC, in which case you just publish on Steam VR. Yeah, I know YouTube. You keep telling me that it's not working properly, but I don't know why. Could be that my family's still awake and watching TV, but I'm supposed to have enough bandwidth here, so very, very strange. The interesting thing is that OBS is telling me that I'm streaming at 5K KBS. But YouTube is saying that it's not receiving it very well. It's strange. Really strange. I don't know if I can change my... I should be able to. Okay. I've lowered the quality of my stream a little bit on the OBS side, just to see if that's going to make YouTube more happy. So I hope that doesn't do too much with the quality. Yeah, itch is definitely a lot less known. If you want to, if you want to be noticed right now, I think for PC, Steam VR is really your only option. Because even for Oculus, the eyes on the Oculus store are on the Quest, and I think you've got the most eyes on it there. But obviously, the Quest has got its own challenges to make a good game on, especially around the limited performance that you have. But I do think that if you target for the Quest, you most likely have the biggest audience right now. But the PC VR audience is pretty big as well. It's more a matter of people discovering that you're there, and that is always difficult on Steam because of the saturation on the platform. Although again, I don't know how different that is for people who are specifically looking for VR games, seeing there's still a limited number of people actually making VR games. So in the end, you're always going to have a cost in publishing your game, and you're always going to have a cost marketing your game. So that's part of the deal, I guess. Um, so yeah, I don't know if Epic's joined the VR ecosystems yet. I know Epic Games is or the Epic Store is making some success, but I don't know for VR games. So could be an option. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna leave this track edition, this pit stop track, the way that it is, just slightly moved down so that it kind of tucks under the main road. Again, I'm not happy with that as a solution. I really feel like I need to start making some time to recreate this in Blender and really use Blender to do things. Because one of the things that I would really like to do is to use this cutout that we have here and put something in there as well, so that we don't have a grass here, but we have something else. Now I could do again the same thing with putting a slab there or something like that, but we really want to have. I'm gonna have a fence here. That is probably pretty easy to still to make, because we could just make something based on its own curve or its own line. Actually, that's probably because that should just be a straight line. I think that is probably something that we can just add normally. So recreating the fence here. Yeah, so which parts? So we have the fence top, and we have the fence. Oh yeah, and we have the wall for the bottom there, that's right. So this one is 0.5 high and 0.2 wide. I'm actually going to move this. Have a little bit more organization here. I'm going to rename that in a second. Don't worry. It's a barrier one. Right, because I didn't actually make a collision shape for that. I made a collision barrier. I'm actually going to rename that. There we go. I'm going to grab everything that has to do with the fence. I'm going to call it outer fence. And then again, it breaks our path, which is really nice. It does that. Oh, that one did keep working? Yeah, that one did keep working, because those were our our poles like that. Okay. Now, one thing that I could do is we could save that off to a... Do we? No, I think for the inner one, we're gonna just make something that is simpler. Yeah. So here we're gonna create a normal mesh instance. I just need a cube for that. So that one was 0.5 high. And 0.2 wide. But we're gonna make this a little bit longer. It's going to be much longer than that. But I now want to make sure that it is slightly higher off the ground. There we go. That now needs to go over here. Let's make that nicely like that. And now we're going to find what the width is going to be. Okay, how are we? Okay. And we're actually going to use that as our guide for our pit road. So instead of trying to make that the exact length, we're going to adjust our pit road to get under there. So I'm going to move that down. And now I'm going to move this until we nicely get there. Oh, that's the wrong one to move. This one we need to move. Of course, I want to make sure that the cars coming off or into the pits are not going to hit that wall. So our positioning is going to be determined by that. And now we do the same thing here, where we're going to move this back a bit. And then we're going to move this one. That one's actually already pretty close. So here we can see that we do still have a bit of overdraw, but we're never going to be that high with our camera, so I don't really mind that much. So we're going to leave that the way that it is. Now, I'm just going to steal our material here. Copy. And I'm going to paste that on this. Paste. Let's see if that looks right. That doesn't, because this actually needs to start having triplanar coordinates. And we're going to go and use world triplanar for that. I'll do. Nobody's going to be inspecting that up close enough anyway, so that's all good. This looks actually fine. Check that, so 0 to 0.5, so yeah, that should be the same height. So I'm going to duplicate this guy. Now that's going to become 1 point. We are going to need to make that make unique. Now I can edit it without any problems. 1.5. Good question. No. Let's see. Yeah, no, I think that's right. Let's go to our fence. Copy our material. Paste our material. I think we're going to have the same problem with this. But this is a shader material, so I think the only way that I can make that one work is by saying make unique, so that we have the same shader with the same parameters. But what's the size of this thing? 250. Maybe a problem. There we go. That's a bit of a trick. But it's good. So the thing that I did there is the problem that I'm having with the CSG nodes. We have the UV nicely spanning the whole length of our track and nicely increasing as the object goes around the track. But because now we're using a box, we have a box that has got its UVs set to have every face of the box, so 6 faces in total, be a part of the texture. And the texture is basically broken up in 3 columns, 2 rows. So by multiplying our X by 3 and our Y by 2, we basically get the texture repeated for each side of the box. But in our case, because we don't want the texture to be stretched over the whole length of our fence, we want it repeated over, properly tiled over that length. We then need to multiply the 3 with the length of our object, which was 250. So actually, that's probably wrong. That needs to be 3 times 250. So that should be 750. So I guess that is what my fence looks like. I don't know. How does my fence look at this side? Yeah, but hard to judge because we're on 2 different sides of this. But I'll take it. All right. So now for our fence posts, I am going to go and do this. Multi-dash path, so that's what I created there. We'll create a path that's top view. It's going to be tricky. Here's the start of my wall. Question, where is the start of my wall? Let's hide my road. Here we go. So I'm going to add a point over here. And I'm going to go to the other side here. I'm going to add a point over here. Okay. And now I've got a path that matches my road, which means that I can use this to, well, let's first go and create a multi-mesh. We want to have 150 because we want one every meter. I change that to half of that, we'll see. That's going to be 3D. I'm going to go and copy my mesh from here. So this is a little script that I made that's going to place my objects along a path. So Why is that not working? But also, why is that on the road? It should actually be at the side of the road. Kind of interesting. Move that a bit more to there. I need to move this guy. How much did it do? 5. Okay. Now it needs to adjust its path as a result as well. Yeah. But why is my multipath now not working? Hey, why did it reset that to 2D? Okay, that's weird. Well, that might be my problem then. There. Delete you. Start over. Multi-dimensional path. There we go. New multi-mesh. 3D. Yep. It's happy now. Paste. Yep. That's still working. Path. 150. There we go. Yay. This time it's happy. So we've got poles every... Okay, mine is the last one. Now I think I can make it trick that. Moving that a little bit down. Hard. It's trying to position that little black dot that we see there. Ah. I really wish that we could move that and fix the plane, but I'll take it. A little harder to get that exactly. Yeah, I think that's thanks, Golden Boy. Yeah, we try and try. We don't like giving up. I am on Reddit, but not a lot. I just don't have time to keep it up with it. All right. Oops. All right. So we've got all those guys. Now we need a top for that. So there we do another mesh instance. And that becomes cylinder mesh. And we're going to rotate that guy. No, not translate it, rotate, I said. There we go. All right. So that's going to be, hold on. Let's see, what size is this guy? 0, 5. So I'm going to make this the same size. 150, because that needs to be, no, that actually needs to be twice that. Because it's an extends on the other one. That's it. Okay. Not quite sure how I managed to move that. Did I actually move this one by accident? Nope. Okay. Not quite sure how this one got moved. But we're gonna move that 0. We're gonna put this at 2 meters, and this one should be 8.5. This one. Minus 8.5. Same what this is? Yeah. So yeah, that's now all the way over there. Okay, so it is too long. It does need to be. Put this back to. Oh no, it was 250. That was why. For some reason I got 150 in my hand. It's 250. Yeah, that exactly goes there. So I want to copy this material, and we're gonna, oops, paste that in here, and we're gonna call that top. All right, and the last thing that I want to do is create a collision shape for that. Transform, that's going to be a 1 minus 8.5. There we go. And then our collision shape is going to be a box shape, which is going to be let's just make that 1. This is going to be 2. No, it's extend, so that's 1. And this then, no, not 75. 250. It's 125. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's the full height. It's a little wider than it needs to be, but I actually kind of like that. I might actually do this 0.05 just to make it. I don't know why there's a couple more control handles in. That's the height. Nope. They're too close together. Need to really. Let's see, what is our walls width? 0.2. So yeah, 0.1 should be good. That's fine enough. Okay, cool. It doesn't have to be precise, it's just so that if we hit it, we know. Okay. Yep. So this is so funny, is that that goes pretty nice. When I hit that, I get a big bump. But on that, okay, oops, helps if I put it in the right gear. Other than that, we now have our inner wall as well. There we go. I'm going into the wrong direction. Yeah, this will do. Alright, our fence is not in the right spot. So I didn't put our fence high enough. I was wondering about that. So I'm guessing that needs to actually be 1.2. Yeah, that's now going all the way from the bottom to the top. So we nicely have a good fence now. Alrighty. Okay, that's interesting. Why is that not the same placing? Oh, that is because these are placed with our beautiful, beautiful path. So I really need to be more precise with that. It's a bit annoying. But now I've got a really good visual indicator of where this one should be. There we go. And actually I want to hide my fence top at the moment. And now go to the other side. Make absolutely sure that this one is correct as well. Oh, that's still nicely where I expected it to be. That'll do. That's good enough. Could be slightly more to the right, but I think that's good enough. That's nicely centered. Alrighty. Cool. How are we doing on time? Slowly getting a bit of a better track together. Yeah, I think that's good enough. Alright. So we have a pit lane. This is a bit of a speedway, so we don't actually have any runoff. If you don't make your corner, you go straight into the wall. Yay! But you know that's again why we really need to have banking in this this track. So that's something that I need to have a look at how I'm going to handle that. You know, we're never gonna be viewing this from that high up. Okay. But I do think that one of the things that I want to do is I want to create the inner chicanes here. And for that I want to create a tool. Again, I want to base that on a path. But the problem that we have with a chicane is we want that to sort of start small and sort of make it go wider, 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 and then have that width over the whole length, and then sort of taper it off again at the end. And CSG doesn't really allow you to do that. It's quite annoying. So I think in this case, we're actually going to make something ourselves. And just create our own bit of code that is going to create the shape. Create a mesh instance as a result. And we're just going to create our own mesh object. And then we can use that same to also update a collision shape. So, so yeah, I think that's how we're going to approach that one, which is a bit more work, but I do think that that will pay off in the long run. All right. I have actually no idea how you spell that word. Well, guess I didn't know how to spell that word. It's always good to have some reference photos. So, actually, looking at this, I might be wrong about chicanes. You see how they actually nicely are the whole width? We're just going to do that and make our life nice and easy. And that means that we can use CSG nodes for this. Alright, let's again add a spatial node here. Spell that right? Guess so. Okay. I'm going to put a path node as a root again, but this time I am going to sort of put it in position so that we can more easily center on it. I'm just gonna roughly put that in the middle of the corner. Doesn't have to be exact. But now we're gonna go into our top view. We're gonna use our add, and we're gonna put one dot over there, and then actually I'm gonna put it over there. I know that there's gonna be a chicane on this side as well, but I actually want to do this like this. Okay. And now we're going to try and make this follow our road curve. All right. I think that is good enough for what we right now need. So here comes our CSG polygon. Yeah. We're going to clear this out for now. Branch. Actually, no. I'm not going to do that. We're going to do it so, in a different way in a minute. Okay. Because I first want to create this. So, path, going to create our chicane path. Boom. Then we need to make sure that it's path follow. There we go. And again, for whatever reason, they always need to be inverted. So weird, but it is what it is. Okay. Now the way that we want to make this is our curve is going to be the curve that hits. It's actually kind of interesting that it does go that way. So that indeed is 0.0. But this is now going up, and I don't actually want that to go up. I'll do 1.0. Oh, and this needs to actually be 0.05, because that was what our road was. Let's just start and see. What does that look like? I think it needs to. That you can't really zoom in that well. So I want this to actually be higher. Because they're always going to be slightly above the track. So 8. And it also means that I actually want this one to be I think it's already in the ground, so it's kind of good. I want to be able to zoom in a little bit better. There we go. So here we can see that we've got a nice thing that is just on the edge of our road. And we need a texture for that. So do we have a texture that we can ready use? No, we don't. No, nobody's created a texture for this. We have to make our own. Well, I guess it isn't too hard to make one. Let's create a really simple chicane track picture. Well, it looks like my my stream health has been happy now. There we go, nice and white, and we just need that's filled. Here you can see how often I use Krita. Not often at all. I want that slightly down. Why is it? Is it? Yeah, well, where's my fill? Boom. Save as. Developments. Gain. Missed pictures, chicane. Okay. Yeah. want smooth faces? I don't think so. Gives it a bit of a round effect, but I don't think it should be. I think it needs to be flat. I also think that it should be wider. That's pretty cool. There we go. That's much nicer. Okay. Now I want to save this as a subscene. Oh. Why not? Alright. Now I need to safeguard my... I want to make sure that that is unique. Because I want to clear that one. I want to make sure that I don't have one over here when we start. So I'm going to go use collision. It's going to error out because we don't have one yet. That's fine. So now we're going back on track. And I'm going to go and copy this one. Place it over there. I can delete this guy. Which now means that I can go and add the second one. Oh, that's the other thing that I want to change. Okay. That small amount shouldn't matter. But it does mean that I can now zero out that one while that stays in position. Let's go over there. Alrighty. New curve. Top view. We're going to go from there to about there. Now I'm going to go and take one in the middle. Stretch it down. That reminds me, one of the things that I want to change here. I actually want that to be a little less aggressive. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Interestingly enough, this one is slightly more on the inside. Doesn't really matter. I think that's good enough for me. Cool. Alrighty. Yeah. Okay. And then one more. Okay. Yeah. Hmm. That'll be good enough. Well, spent quite some time fine-tuning that, but let's see what that looks like in-game. Alrighty. There we go. Uh-oh. Ah! Flying. So I think positioning wise, we probably need to fine tune them a little bit. I did see some gaps in some of them. But all in all, we have created some chicanes in our track. Now, obviously, one of the things that we really need to do eventually is work on sounds. So that if you run over the chicane, you hear like a ding 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 sort of sound. actually kind of nice that we can bump into it. Oh, but we get launched. And that's actually the whole idea, of course. These things are supposed to be something like an obstacle that you can hit. Yeah. I think I might need to do the spacing a little bit more, because I changed this to 10, but I think that's a little bit overdone. So I'm going to put that back to 5. Just put it lower so that's easier to edit them and see what we're doing with that. Let's go to that first one, because I think that one was the one that had some. It's actually OBS that is saying that it loses connection with YouTube, so I wonder what's going on there. Wonder what is going on. Wow. Hi, David Murphy. Merry Christmas to you as well. I'm sorry, I'm having some quality issues with the stream tonight. Seeing that it works fine for half an hour to an hour, and then all of a sudden goes and misbehaves again. I'm wondering if it is a problem at YouTube's end. I don't know. Then again, I never trust Australian internet, so I'm supposed to have enough bandwidth, but it is not playing nice at the moment. Don't know if there's anything running that shouldn't be running. I don't think so. Who knows? Try brandy. Yeah, I could use some. I'm not quite sure if my computer will like brandy, though. I don't think that mixes. I will settle for water, and not for my computer, but for myself. All right. Let's continue dressing this up and seeing if we can make it a little bit nicer. And I think the next thing that we need to concentrate on is actually creating a pit lane. We're probably going to go for something a little bit simpler than what we're seeing here. Where was the one that... there was a very simple one on one of the Japanese circuits that was really nice. I can't remember what it's called. Ibiza circuit or something? Because there was this really simple pit lane. It just had... well... I guess we can just rebuild that anyway. But the first thing that we need to do is just throw down a slab of concrete. Now again, I like to put things together. I'm going to go and move that a bit over here. We're going to go and add a mesh instance here. And this is going to become our floor. Now the nice thing is that we already have a... well, actually, we'll put a... actually, we'll change this one. Change type. Where are we? Aesthetically. So we can add some shapes there and work with that. So here I always want to create a cube. Let's see, our whole pit here was 150 or 250. So actually I'm going to make that 200. This is just going to be our floor slab, so that can just be one. That probably is big enough for what we want to do. Actually, I think that could become 150. And we're just going to move that in place like this. But obviously we don't want that to be this high. We want that to be somewhat flush with the ground. So that needs to go down. Down, not up. Something like this. I want that to nicely line up with our pit lane. Cool. Okay, which also means that I actually want done here, so that it becomes easier to put all our other things there. Okay. And that also means that we can start playing around with our physics material, which is really something that I want to do there. And that's actually something that I'm planning to do, is to replace the CFG polygon node that we're currently using also to create a collision with something that actually works with the static body and actually creates a collision shape. So that's something that I want to work at as well. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with YouTube. I hope you guys can follow along. But YouTube is definitely not happy tonight. And I do not get why. OBS says that everything's fine. OBS is streaming at the frame rate that it says that it's supposed to. But it looks like YouTube is not happy. I don't know why. Well, I'm glad it's keep our fingers crossed and hope that it keeps on going. All right. Now, hit floor, which also means that I want to turn it into a collision shape. And I want that collision shape to match my floor. But we have to half everything, so that's 25, half, 75, 25, 0.5, 75, and that should give us our floor so that we don't have any problems with that. So now I need to have a quick look at what textures I've got here. I might just reuse that one. We'll see. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, first of all, that looks ugly repetitive. But also, that is way too dark for what we want to do over here. So, go back in here and see if we can find a lighter concrete to use. So I think I was using that one. That looks all right. Now, for these demo things, I always download the lowest quality ones. Let me just create a folder for that. And we copy those in place. There we go. All right. Now, one thing that I've created, and this was something that I saw in a video from Blender Guru. What's his name? Andrew. Can't remember his name. He's got a really cool YouTube channel called Blender Guru, on which he shows how to do things in Blender. But he also works for this company called Polygon, who do make all these sort of assets that you can use. It's pretty cool. One of the things that he showcased was if you got a texture that's repetitive like this, is you can pretty quickly sort of fix that repetitiveness. You can see that I've done that with the ground here by rotating every tile a little bit. So I created a script or a shader in Godot that does exactly the same. We're actually going to create that or use that one here. So we're going to use a shader material, and I'm going to load in the shader one that we have, which is an assets materials. Rotated tile shader, there we go. Leave that the way it is for now. So let's get our texture in. Now I didn't do all the different types here, so we can just do our color and then our normal map. There we go, and we can see that they are very much repetitive right now, but if we add in a noise texture over here, then we see that it's kind of broken up because every bit is rotated slightly. That doesn't work with everything, but for things like this, it kind of works quite nicely. Now, the other thing that's important here is that we're now using the tiling of our UVs, not our world scale tiling, unfortunately. At least I don't think so. Or do I do that? No, I do that. Okay. And we can do it like this. Okay. But I think I want to have this. Yeah, a little bit bigger like that. I'll leave it at 0.2. That'll actually work well. This is a pretty big slab, but that is fine. There we go. Sweet. So let's go and build our object on that. I think I am going to make this a spatial after all. Type. Go back to spatial. Instead, we're going to add a static body there. Move this in there. Because for the walls of our pit lane, we're going to use our CSG again. But this time just a CSG. So CSG polygon. This one needs to go over here. There we go. Sweet. All right, we're gonna turn that into one wall. Yeah, Andrew Price, exactly. Andrew Price. He, I love his work. There's so many things that I'll learn from that guy. And even even if you don't apply it to Blender, a lot of the things that he does are actually applicable to how you build things in a game engine, for instance. So I'm going to use depth here instead of the other thing that we did before, and we're going to actually trace out the shape that we want to have here. So I guess positive is going to the left. Is that so? Yep, it is. All right. So this one's starting. Actually, I don't want to start there. 0 and 20, and I want to go up. Boom. Okay, I'm going to make that 15. so much. I wanted to be a little bit off shape. This one I'm just going to make a normal shader material. We are going to use our same concrete that we used before. In this case, I want to actually use triplanar for this. And definitely at a much lower scale. There we go. There we go. Cool. Turn that into collision shade. That's why I wanted the static body to be separate, so that all 01, so that that becomes a collision shape as well. All right. Definitely not smooth. Good. So good. So good. I'm gonna save this. In this case, we're going to save that in our concrete folder. Pretty sure we have a roughness map for this. Yep. I'm not going to worry about displacement. That's really not important for what we're doing here. All right. So before we do more with our wall, I want to create another mesh instance here. I'm going to go up. Cube. How big was this guy? 150. So this one's going to be a bit smaller. Let's say 140. Perfect. Y is good. Then that's pretty close to what I want it to be. I have a feeling it's my my network. Because I can see that OBS suddenly disconnects and then reconnects a second later. I don't get it. I don't get why that suddenly is a problem. Definitely something to figure out during the week. We're gonna go and copy a material from here, and we're gonna put that on here. Boom. And this one's going to be called Alright, and now obviously I want to move this one in a little bit. I think that I want to move this one down a little bit more. Alrighty. Okay, so let's put that at exact position. Now I don't care about a collision shape on this because we're not going to fly through the top. Now this is really, really big, and I might not even want it to be that high. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to actually go to our car. I think I made this way, 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 way too big. That's almost a pit lane for giants. So we're definitely going to go and adjust that. Okay. We're going to go and get our car to start inside the pit lane. Yeah, I definitely think that we're going to make that a lot smaller. And for that, we're going to start with it. I think because I made it so long, that's kind of what drew me off. Now, I don't mind it actually being so long. But we definitely want it to be a lot smaller. Well, maybe we won't even make it that long. So I'm going to bring that back to 100. Which also means that we're going to bring this one back to, let's make that 15. I think that is more than enough for what we need. Which means that we can now bring this forward in such a way that it again nicely touches there. Good enough. So 7.5 and 50. 7.5, and that's going to become 50. There we go. That fits that. Which means I'm going to make this one a lot smaller. So I'm going to actually make that 90. I'll make that 15. And probably something like that. But I'm going to make that definitely not 2 meters thick. So let's say that that's going to be half a meter thick. Probably a much better idea. I'm going to hide that for now. Which means that I'm going to bring this in quite a bit. Is that? I think the same thing here. I don't want to make that a meter wide. I will make that half a meter wide. All right, let's first start with this. That's good. Okay, so 5 meters. That's actually probably a good height. Yeah. I think that's much more respectable. There's our car. There we go. Alrighty. And now let's unhide our top. Okay. No, I think 90 is actually pretty good. All right, so let's go and duplicate that one. But we're gonna make that 35. 25. 15. 5. Plus 5. Okay, where are we now? Oh. It's showing those things everywhere. That's funny. 15. 25. 35. There we go. There is our pit lane. Now, obviously, that is something to nicely dress up a bit more. Maybe at some point have some ceiling lights just to illuminate things, or at least for the one that our car is in. Actually, let's create that one for now. Maybe. Yeah, create a spotlight. You want that in there normally. Let's move that into place first. Yeah, obviously that's shining the wrong way, so there we go. 90. So yeah, at some point we should have a little light. Have a little light thingy there. But for now, that is good enough for... I actually think I'm going to make that an omni light. I think that makes more sense. And let's just for fun also say that this thing casts shadow. That's a bit overdone. Again, we should have a what do you call it? An actual light object there, so that we can see what's going on. So this one is tiled. It's hard to see. You can see it repeating somewhat. Only at the bottom one, I did that little trick, and I did that same thing for the grass, where every tile is slightly rotated by a random thing, and that only works for these sort of textures, where because you could create seams really easily if you create a like a checkerboard. You could really see very easily what's being done there. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna put that light in there with actually, so that's the only one that's actually going to be casting shadows. We don't really need that for the other ones, not at this point in time. So that is going to be our little pit lane. But you know, we can dress it up with the light. Should get some free objects that we can put in. I don't know if there's a kit somewhere for the sort of things that you find in a garage. That would be really nice. But yeah, so if we go in here, we should now be starting inside of our pit lane. There we go. So we slowly are starting to get some things here that are interesting to see. Instead of just a flat track. So yeah, that's it does have some funky things with shadows. I think I've got the shadows set to 500 meters. And our environment is definitely bigger than that. So our big skylight shadows is a bit of a problem. You can see how as we move, you can slowly see that the shadows stop working on these pit lanes at the end. They're no longer in shadow. Yeah. I guess we could tweak more with that. I don't know. It's really one of those things where it's pretty hard to get the sunlight to really work well. So you can see that the max distance here is 500. I think this whole track is about 1,000. So interestingly enough, you don't really see that happening here. Oh, now we do. So that's a 500-meter mark. Oh, someone's driving a truck real hard. And again, one of the things that we could do, and I need to close this for that, and this one too, is go to our base track, and I guess I could make this 1,000, but then I need to halve these to make the splits on the same one, on the same size. And that should mean that we still have shadows working really bad at that distance. Is this track really that big? I find it hard to believe. See, that's the size of a track. So it's within 1 kilometer. So you'd think that that would be enough. But obviously, I get that the precision really disappears, but uh, the problem is that it's so obvious when it cuts out of shadow. Ooh. That really has a little self shadowing. much cell shadow if we get too far away, but I don't think these are bad settings for. I think we can live with that. I think we can do that. All right, we go here. Yeah, I do want to get something with the height map done eventually for sort of the background. Um, but I actually want to complete because it makes sense for the inside of the oval to be flat because that will be a tailored environment. And obviously, you know, we might eventually have some buildings in there and some other things. Or maybe even an internal track at some point in time if we can get the that to work properly. I actually want to see how bad that cell shading of the ground is once we drive, because if we can't really see that, I don't really care. So we do already have the mountains kind of in the background. See, we'll want some trees at some point in time, but I want some stands in there as well. So one of the downsides of having these big shadow areas, is that the shadows that are close to us are really suffering. Other than that, this is working pretty well now. Get it on 7. So I think I might actually want to still have this like this. Like that. That just gives us better shadows close by. See that here it becomes fuzzy, but there's a lot of. Can I do the bias a little bit more? Alright, so it's something that we can wrong way. Well, again, we really can't. You know, we can see the ground having shadow with itself. Now, one thing that we can obviously do is make sure that the ground doesn't cast shadow. And I think we need to do the same with our track as well. Because obviously it doesn't make any sense it doesn't make any sense for the track, for the ground to cast shadow, because there's nothing to cast shadow on. So by turning that off, we also remove the ability for the ground to cast shadow on itself, which means that at least gets rid of the worst bit of shadow artifacts. It's a bit of a cheat, but it works. Why is my caps lock on? So you got a lot of dirt tracks in this style. Really interesting. Just to get some ideas. So here you can see that the pits is actually on the outside. These are really small ovals. Just indeed grass in the middle. It's a 3D one. So here's the pit line in the inside, like we kind of did. But then just grass in the middle. Again, banked roads, which is kind of interesting. But I do want to get sort of like stands in there. So I might do something with that. But we'll make some empty stands for now. So let's get some ideas for what we want those to look like. Some of these are pretty damn big. I wonder how big the crowds are that these sort of things attract. But basically, they're just rows and rows and rows of seats. And we can make them as simple as just bars, right? We don't have to really make it anything more difficult than that. You know, you're going to zoom past it like crazy anyway. So you're never really going to have time to properly see something. Obviously, having one of these somewhere, that'd be nice. Yeah, so just having something simple like that is probably a good idea. Yeah, right now we have a flat track 5e. Alright, so let's put a stand on this side. It's a bit lane. Yeah, we create a spatial. So I'm going to move that out a little bit. Alright, now in this case we don't care about collision shapes or anything like that because it's never going to interact with our car. It's purely going to be for the show. So we're just going to start with a cube mesh. Not that one. So that's going to be the width. 0.5 meter. Thickness can be really small. Let's do this one. Okay. So first one is going to be 0.5 meter up. 3 meters forward. Okay. All right. We're just going to put them like this. Um, How high are we going to go with this? I think 10 rows are probably fine for what we want to do. There we go. All right. I didn't give this any materials. I think this one, we want to make some sort of metal. Like a real dull metal, maybe something like this. That'll do. Gonna be too far away for someone to really see anyway. I do want to make bankings in there at some point in time. But that won't be tonight. Basically, there is information in the 3D curve to allow us to bank the track, but we don't actually have an interface for that. So that's something that I definitely am thinking about. Okay, how can we improve on that? I'm actually wondering if we should not have this. Let's see. That's 2. That's -4, 5. Okay. That's all right because yeah, I think it'll do. All right. So, I think because I copied all the same meshes that if I, not shader, spatial material. I think that means they're all going to get, yeah, it's all going to apply it to the same one. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to go save this one. That's now going to go metal 9. I actually want that to be triplanar. That's good enough. Okay, so load in our normal map. Yeah, we kind of need to do that as well. I have looked at Open Game Art, but I find that site pretty hard to find some good stuff on. Sometimes there are some gems on that, but not always. Yeah, I do. There we go. That's a nice little optical effects. Yeah, it's nice and shiny. I think that is good enough for what I wanted to do. Let's create some sides. So for that, I'm going to use our CSG polygon thing again. How big were our 50s? So it's 25. There we go. Um, this one was going to be more, 5.5, but then 5.5. Probably, actually, I am going to make this 4. And it's going to be 6. No, 7 even. And I'm going to make this 5. So we're going to introduce a new one. And that crashed it. Woo! I hope I saved. I haven't seen that happen too often. I hope I didn't lose too much there. Test track. Nah! That sucks. Okay. Wall still. So the last thing that we were working on was a sun. That kind of looks like what it was. I hope it is. Okay. Well, we should be able to do it quicker the second time around because we now know what we want to make. So that was 50. Then I believe it was 0.1. Then I believe it was 0.5. There we go. Seats 0.1, which then it went -4 on high. And that one was -3 and then 1.5. -2, 2. -1, 2.5. Three. 5. 4. 4.5. 5. There we go. Now let's hope it saved our material. Don't think so. Well, some of it. There we go. Let's save it this time. Make sure that that's saved. Yeah, Game Endeavor crashes happen from time to time. I have to admit, not very often. It's been a long time since the last time that Godot crashed for me, so I am not complaining. Alright, so so let's see if we can this time do this without it crashing, or is it going to crash again? Alright, so there's definitely a problem with changing the number of vertices on our CSG thing. That sucks because I need 5. Well, this time we saved, so it should be in better shape than before. That works. Don't ask me why. I'm not complaining. If that's what we need to do, then that is what we need to do. Actually, let's make that a little bit less wide, and I want to have this go there. There we go. That one, I think I want to go like that. Yep. Then we're going to go to 4, and that's too high. 8, 7. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay. And this is going to become 5, 7. Got it. Don't crash again. Don't you dare. Just thinking about it. Come on. Not telling us anything. Why is Audacity open? How did I start Audacity? Oh, message queue out of memory. Well, it's not happy about something, but it's come alive again, so make that slightly more like that, just for the fun of it. Okay, so that's going to be a wall here. Try and literally try again. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all my streams are saved on YouTube, so you can watch any of them. I always make sure that I've got that. Okay, so let's use the same concrete for this guy. Okay, call that wall 01. I want to get another wall at the other side. There we go. Actually, I want to make that 6. I have to make sure. No. Yeah. Make sure to make that 6 here as well. Perfect. Actually, that means that I want this one. Perfect. Do the same thing here. Maybe actually 7.5. It's a little bit over. Okay. All right. So 1. Okay, go. Actually, let's make that slightly overhang. Now that's supposed to give everybody shade, but I don't think anybody is getting shade at the way that the sun is right now. But can't say I care too much. And I'm actually going to make that like this. Now, if that really was concrete, and it was that big a slab, I think that would come crashing down at some point. But I think for a start, that is pretty good. The thing that I actually want to do is just a little bit of artistic license on this. I don't like straight edges on this thing. I like it to be I like it to be a little bit angled and sort of break up the monotone feel of that. Now, one of the things that we can do, obviously, we've got all the seat rails here. Is we could get a texture of people standing and just repeat them over the whole length, and then just place a transparent thing there, and you could get the illusion of the stands being full of people. Could be nice to do something like that. But yeah. So I'm gonna go and save this guy. Put him in there. Not really the place for it, but I need to put it somewhere. Because that means that we can quickly create some extra stands. And just put them next to each other like that. And all of a sudden we've got some people spectating. Need a finish line thingy here, I think. Let's see how that looks when we actually drive past. Oh, my controller's off again. But we definitely need to have some at the other side of the track as well, I think. But the idea is pretty cool. Oh. Yeah, I think that would look pretty cool if we actually have some people standing in there. I am wondering, though, if I should keep the back open. Or if we should put something... I'm worried that if we give it a wall at the back, that it would just become, oh, let's just try it. See what it looks like. All right, those things are floating. That's not right either. Let's smooth that down a little bit. There we go. Now it actually touches. Don't want them to overhang that much. Okay. Let's just see if we can give it a back. See how well it looks. Okay. This one we can make 50. And in this case, the heights can be something. We'll figure out how much that needs to be. There we go. So I think that's good enough. Give it that same concrete Back. Don't think that looks too bad. Oh, our shadows are going to play havoc on that again. Can't wait for Godot 4 as far as shadow is concerned. The shadow mapping has been so much improved in that. Because you can really see that it struggles here. Because of the lower... settings on the shadow map. Just so that the shadow maps work on long distances. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to keep that back in there. Not having the back is kind of helps with it not standing out that the shadows aren't working very well on these distances. So yeah, I think that we're gonna remove. Oops, I'm gonna remove that out of there. There we go. Sweet. I do still think that we should try something with putting peoples on the stands. No. No. Of course, we also need to make sure that we mind. Here we go. This is right. Commons. Yeah, I'm going to have to figure out and see if I can find a a nice set of images for that. So the idea that I basically have is just to create a transparent rectangle that just has images of people on them, because you're blazing fast, you're going fast past it anyway. So, yeah, that will work. But I don't have a texture for that, and I can't easily find one. And especially with these sort of things, you don't want to muck about with things that might have a dubious license. That's the downside of using Google. Is that it's not always clear what license images are having. All right, so we have 3 on that side. We got 3 on that side. Obviously, people will want to be in the corners, but I think that's good enough for now. Yeah. We actually have the start of something pretty neat there. I think one last thing that I would like to do, but that's always a bit harder to find some good things for. Find some low poly trees that we can. I thought this had some tags that you could say I just want low poly things. Not that low poly though. No, I don't want a Christmas tree. That's kind of the right time of year for it. I'll look over that one. See if we can use that for what I have in mind. All right. Okay. Now we have to open that in Blender. Just so that we can save it as something else. Pretty cool. Did that not work? That was interesting. All right, there's our tree. But we've lost our textures. Now, is that because I did not export it right? Weird. Is it just because it has color here, or is it that it actually... Here's my materials nowadays. Material. Okay, so that's just set to green. Interesting. Really? Yeah. So it's created our materials, but it hasn't imported them. Unless that is because... Okay. Let's just redo this. Nope. Hey! Don't do that. That one. No, not you. Find it. Okay. Export GLTF. Let's just go back to GLB. That's fine. Okay, now the materials are set properly. They're not imported correctly, but we can work with that. All right. Are these all really leaves? How many? If this is supposed to be low poly, I don't really think it is low poly. Because I would have expected textures. Oh, close free. These are kind of cool. Called palm trees, right? Cactus trees. Well, let's just see what we can do with the tree that we have for now. I have no idea if this is going to blow our budget in any way, shape, or form. Let's just see what that looks like if we put a couple on the track. Move these there. There's 3. Yeah. And little verse tree. Now, is that tiny or is that an okay size for this? That's the big question. Well, I don't want to place a whole bunch of trees just manually like this. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay. This is a nice little trick to get a mesh from our what you call it? To get a mesh from our what am I saying? To get a mesh out of our GLB, we could save the mesh and then use it that way. But by including a single tree as our GLB in our scene, we can just copy the mesh out of there. And because it's being imported, and we're now sharing resources, it doesn't. In theory, I think I can even delete that tree because it knows that it's getting it from there. But the idea now is that I've got my tree here in our multi-node, and now I'm rendering it with instancing. But the only thing that we really want to do as an extra thing multi yeah, we want to make sure that they all have different places. So we're again going to create a tool script. We need to trigger this somehow. So what we're going to be doing here is work bar trigger is false, set get set trigger. There we go. And basically we're not going to set a trigger at all. We're going to now randomize our what you call it? All the positions of our trees. So we have our multi-mesh here. We know what our instance count is. So what we're going to do here is, if not multi-mesh, we're going to return. If not, if the instance counts 0, not going to do anything either. Oops. Then we're going to look through all our instances that we want to create. Oh, my OBS was making weird noises again. All right. So, I'm going to make that a vector 2. Oh, I'm not allowed to use that. There we go. There we go. So, start with creating a new transform. There we go. This needs to be around range, I think. Cool. Right, and here we're going to say multi-mesh set instance transform IT. Okay, let's start with that and see what we get. Oh, we already have a bunch of them. It's already run it at least one time. That's funny. That actually means that we need to do set. We're not going to execute this if we're setting it to true. Else we're going to keep rebuilding every time. Okay, so in theory that should mean that if I click this, it keeps building. So let's make this a bit bigger. No idea why some of these trees are getting all fuzzy like that. Gonna have it more like this. There we go. A whole bunch of trees being rendered. We're noticing a good drop, so I don't think these are very good trees to use for this purpose. Which is not strange, seeing the fact that I think all the leaves are actually individual objects. So let's go and have a look if we find something that is a little bit more suitable for this. So we actually want something that uses textures for the leaves. So we really have only a few. Those are not low poly, guys. I love it how you search for low poly and then you get a tree with 90,000 faces. I want something with a couple of hundred, and that should be it. I don't really trust those settings. Let's try this one. Get out of that. Ah, I hate RAR files. Just paid attention to that. I think I need to use one of these tree packs. I just think I'm gonna go for that tree pack one. Okay. I think I just accidentally downloaded it twice, but it's okay. Throw all these in. All right. Now these work obviously with textures, which is really good. We again have a blend file. So did I close Blender? I closed Blender. So let's reopen Blender. Go in here. Ooh. All right. That looks really funky. I'm not sure if it just hasn't loaded in the images or is there something else that's going on. I'm guessing that they've got a tree on every different thing, but I don't really care. So what we're going to do is we're going to go export. Still going to use that one, but I'm now going to use selected objects only. I want a tree one. And we'll leave everything else the way that it is. I'm going to see if that all survives. Well, this is going to take a little longer because of the images. Maybe went faster than I thought. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, that's a tree without anything on it. Could very well have been this tree. Oh, they are working with an armature. Okay. Oh, okay, I get it. That's a tree. That's a tree. That's a tree. All right. So, okay. Try this again. Yep. That might not have triggered a re-import. Okay. Do I need to do it like this? Oh, without the... Actually, you know what? What I'm going to do, instead, I'm going to turn it off. We're just going to do the whole thing. Export the whole thing. So weird. Oh, so much for thinking that was going to be easy. Uh, just to see if this works, because that's going to take out all the... Okay. It looks horrible, but it's really not. New scene. 3D scene. It was definitely too big, but that's something we can fix. Assets. Boom. So it screwed up the materials, but that's okay. Because that... Whoa! Why are there so many? Okay. Yeah, changes may be lost because of what we're doing here. Oh, they're gonna be like this anyway, so... hang on again. That's a big ass tree. Mm. It, now, okay, so that is so 0, 5. We know. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. I think those were left over from. Dang it. Okay. Go on, there has to be a way to export this in a way that we can actually make that work. Alright. What about FBX? FBX is always broken, but seeing that we're not going to be using animations. Able to do something with this. Well, yeah, that's the problem that we have with FBX. When there's animations involved, it does not work. So that's a dead end too. I had a nice tree pack a while ago that was really suitable for this sort of stuff. But I guess I could create a tree with speed tree or something like that, but I don't really want to go down that route. Okay. Free one, so why are you giving me a sale? A little Minecraft tree. That's funny. All the nice ones cost money, which I'm not against. People who make cool stuff that you can use deserve to get paid for it. But for the type of thing that I right now want to do, I'm not going to do that on stream. All right, I think that for the trees, it's already 1 o'clock. So I'm gonna find a nice tree to use and start adding them in. But we saw the basis of the approach, just using a multi-mesh to create a bunch of trees. It's just that this thing is way too high poly for what I had intended, especially for something that's just in the background. It just doesn't make any sense to have those. Okay, so yeah, it's 1 o'clock. I actually wanted to spend some time talking about where I'm heading with the channel and the latest developments around me getting hired next year by the guys from Godot. But I think we need to... I might just make a proper video out of that, because first of all, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. But second of all, I think that's worth just having a separate video for, where I kind of lay out my plans for the future. The hope basically is that seeing my day job is being replaced by working for Godot and working specifically on VR content for Godot, or VR support for Godot, I should say. That will leave my free time to work on my videos and my YouTube channel. So I actually hope to be able to dedicate quite a bit more time to it than I currently can. Not to mention that there's a lot of overlap here. And the nice thing working for an open source project is that it's something that is that really works together, because there's nobody who's going to worry about, hey, you're putting secrets online or anything like that. We're open source, where everything we do is visible. So making tutorials, making videos on the subject is only going to help the project. So yeah, it's something that I want to keep on doing, and I actually want to do a lot more for next year. On the short term, however, the big problem that I'm faced with right now is that obviously I'm in the last month of my current employment, and that's going to take a lot of my time because I need to hand over things. I need to make sure that I leave things in a good spot. So obviously that is eating into my time quite a bit and into my energy quite a bit. So I'm working on part 6 of the vehicle tutorial and taking all the gear shift stuff that we did a couple of weeks ago and putting that into a proper tutorial video. So that hopefully is going to be coming out. I hope sometime this week. I hope I've got a couple of days off because of Christmas. So I'm actually planning to spend some more time in that. That's also why I wanted to get this this level looking a little bit nicer, because I want to feature that in the intro of the video. Because it was really looking very empty and plain, and it's not very nice to look at that point. So yeah, that's something that I'm hopefully going to be able to finish off this week, and we'll see where we go with that series next, because there's still a few things that I want to do. I want to make sure that we get something in place that you can track laps that you do. You can do timing of your laps. I obviously want to do more with the UI so that you can see how fast you're going and all that sort of thing. So obviously in the during the stream we did a few things on the dashboard, but we want to have some other things that that make that more visible. I want to spend some more time on setting up vehicles. Right now our suspension is so that we're very bouncy, and it also has something to do, or some to do, with the fact that I don't have control over the physics properties of the surface that we're running on. So that's definitely something that I need to have more of a look in and see if we can play around with that some more. So there's quite a few things. Sound is my big miss at this point in time. I am still looking for good sound samples. Paid ones, there are plenty out there, but free ones, which I can use for my tutorial, which I can distribute, they're hard to find. So obviously sound is really important. You need to hear how fast your engine is going to tell you when to shift gears and things like that. So there's quite a bit to do here before I return back to my space game. But yeah, I do hope that once this month is over, so the whole of January, I'm still working for my current employer. I'm kind of hoping that from February onwards, I'll actually have more time to spend on doing these tutorials. Because again, I'll be working full-time for Godot during the week, which frees up my time at night to some extent to do more of this stuff. So those are the plans. But yeah, I'll do a proper introduction video at some point in the next couple of weeks to sort of lay out those plans when they are a little bit more clear. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it for tonight, guys. So I hope you all enjoyed everything. Sorry for the problems with the connection. I am not quite sure what went on, but well, it is what it is. So hope you guys will join me again next Friday, and see you then. Until next time.